Okay. So, hello guys, welcome to the CSC Addict IAS. So, I am your educator Yatish, and this is the video regarding the Panchayati Raj Institution. So, if I talk about the Panchayati Raj Institution, this video is important for all those aspirants who are preparing for either civil services examination or net examination. Okay, so for public administration as well as for political science, this topic is very important. Okay, first of all, um, I'll tell you how I'm going to proceed. First of all, I'll talk why Panchayati Raj institution are important. Okay, why the need was felt by the, you can say, or government to introduce Panchayati Raj institution through 73rd Constitution Amendment Act. Okay, so this is the first thing. Second, I'll talk about how it is evolved. Okay, earlier there was the program like community development program, national extension services. Okay, from these programs, how the structures of PRIs has introduced, how the structures of PRIs has evolved, we will talk about that. Lastly, we will talk about what is that is actually, है ना. So we know कि 73rd Constitution Amendment Act 1992 basically give sanction to Panchayati Raj institution. So we will read the whole 73rd Constitution Amendment Act, and we will understand how the like what it contains. Okay, so what are the structures of Panchayati Raj institution, what are the functions. Okay, we will understand about the three F's. Okay, funds, basically it is related with funds, functions and functionaries. What are these things? Okay, so now let's start with the why aspect, why the Panchayati Raj institution formed. So if I talk about the Panchayati Raj institution, the idea of Panchayati Raj institution was first given by our beloved Mahatma Gandhi ji. According to them, India lives in its village. ये महात्मा गांधी का बहुत फेमस कोट है कि इंडिया इज लिविंग इन इंडिया लिव्स इन इट्स विलेज. बिकॉज इफ आई टॉक अबाउट और कंट्री ना, ऑलमोस्ट 70 to 80% population is still living in villages. Okay, in this scenario, if people of the villages are not you can say not aware about the democratic principles, then how we can say that the democracy is flourishing in our country. Okay, so because of this reason only Gandhi ji told ki India lives in its village. From this idea of self governing village came into the picture. For example, इतने सारे विलेजेस हैं, इतनी सारी पॉपुलेशंस है, अगर वो सारे के सारे डेमोक्रेसी से रिलेट हो जाए और उनको डेमोक्रेटिक प्रिंसिपल्स का पता हो, सो इन दैट सिनेरियो व्हाट विल हैपन अल्टीमेटली, it will make a fertile ground for emergence of democracy and democratic principles. Okay, so this was the reason. Because of that, Gandhiji told about self governing villages. That means the power should flow from bottom to top, not to top to bottom. Okay, what is the meaning of this? Let's talk about that. There is concept called centralization, and there is concept called decentralization. Okay, earlier what happened, there was a king, he used to rule over a kingdom. Okay, and there was the concept called might is right. What is the meaning of might is right? Mean, जो राजा को भाया उसने वो किया, मेरे मन को भाया. There was a dialogue called in the movie. I'll not talk about that. But according to that, the might is right means, आपने आई थिंक वो देखा होगा बाहुबली वाला, जो युगामी देवी जो कहती है ना, मेरा वचन ही शासन. दैट मीन माई वर्ड्स आर द लॉस. दैट मीन जो किंग को भाया वो करेगा. ठीक है, इन दिस सिनेरियो व्हाट इज देयर, it is a kind of a centralized approach, like the whole administration of the country or the territory is being, you can say, managed by the king. The same thing goes in our country as well. Okay, this is our pyara Bharat, beloved country. Sorry for my drawing, obviously. Okay, this is our country. The whole central administration is managed from this place. This place is basically national capital territory. Okay, the whole administration of the union is managed through this place. So this, and from this place it will reaches to this place as well. This is a smallest village in basically, if I talk about the Rajasthan, so it will be nearby, you can say, Badmer, not exactly Badmer, but it will be approximately with Bikaner. Okay, it will be near a Bikaner. So there is a small village in Bikaner, suppose XYZ. This village will be managed from this place. Are you understanding my point? For example, in our village you have the issue of street light. Okay, if the Panchayati Raj institutions will not there, will you call the prime minister? Will you call the prime minister ki dear prime minister, we have the issue with the street light? What will be the prime minister will do? Are you understanding my point? So Panchayati Raj institutions are important to deal with the local issues. Are you understanding my point? And if all those villages will be a kind of a self-governing, ultimately it will result into a flourishing democracy. This was the reason that the Gandhiji basically talked about the self-governing villages. And the planning should be from bottom to top. Are you understanding my point? The planning from bottom to top. That means all the villages will together talk about the few fundamentals that should govern our country. If this will happen, ultimately national, like the government that is situated on the national capital territory, will also perform better. Are you understanding my point? इसका कुछ ऐसा समझो. Let's talk about the thought experiment. You and your friends basically decided to watch a movie. Okay, you have a group of 5 friends. Okay, you have group of 5 friends, and all those people have decided to watch KGF movie, KGF 3 movie that will come next year probably. Okay, and at that time there is also a movie called, like, let's talk about Bahubali. Even though this movie will not come, but still let's talk about the Bahubali is coming. Okay, so two of your friends basically decided to watch KGF 3, and two of friends will decided to watch Bahubali. In this scenario, what will happen? Ultimately, this guy will decide, ki which movie will be watched, because if this guy will go with them, they will watch Bahubali. If this guy will go with them, they will watch KGF 3. Okay, this will called at kind of a collective decision making. Collective decision making plus majority, plus majority. Okay, so this was a kind of a idea that if all the villages of the country will take a collective decision and like using the principles of majority, we will be able to govern ourselves in a more efficient manner, because the people are directly connected with the democratic principles. Okay, because if I talk about the union government, if I talk about the state government, we perform or democracy only I'm using these terms very like forcefully. Basically, we use the democracy only when we are in the election, when we are selecting our representative. Okay, selective or representative. Okay, so in this scenario, local government gives us opportunity to go into the direct connection with the democratic principles. So that's why we say कि जो आपके पास ग्राम सभा है इज नियर बाय अ काइंड ऑफ अ डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी एलिमेंट. हैव gram sabha have the direct democratic element. Okay, so the second thing that we say is why the Panchayati Raj institution formed to deepen the grassroots democracy. Is it clear? So here you can read, democracy exists mainly at the union and state level. Villages had weak or irregular local bodies. Okay, after 73rd constitution amendment act 1992, democracy extended to village level. ओके, और यहाँ पे एक लाइन लिखी है कि फ्रॉम 73rd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, डेमोक्रेसी फ्रॉम रिप्रेजेंटेटिव डेमोक्रेसी टू पार्टिसिपेटरी डेमोक्रेसी. दैट्स व्हाई आई टोल्ड हियर कि वी परफॉर्म द डेमोक्रेसी ओनली इन वन प्लेस when we are at election. So in election we select our representative, है ना, we select our representative. But in this scenario what we are doing, we are actively participating. actively participating. Is it clear? Now, let's talk about the third thing. For democratic decentralization, as I told you earlier, here what we will do, all the collective villages or the collective individuals will decide how the policy will form. The example could be the farm laws. The example we can take of farm laws. Actually, the farm laws was like, if I talk about the all the discussion regarding whether the farmers were right or not, I'll not talk about that, but I'll talk about the democratic principles here. In the oppose of farm laws, all the farmers collectively came into the national capital territory, and as you know, they have basically surrounded the NCR region. Okay, in that time, even though government wanted to implement the law, but still they have to restrain themselves. The reason was because the collective farmers wanted to repeal that law, है ना? The farmers were against the law, and ultimately what happened, the government has to step back. Okay, this was the power of, you can say, the democracy or the collective decision making. Is it clear? It was like, we can take the example, but this example is not exactly to the point. I think you have understood the core idea of it, the democratic decentralization. So you have to remember, the first time democratic decentralization was discussed during the Balwant Rai Mehta committee, appointed in 1957. And Balwant Rai Mehta committee told about this, कि the development programs fails without people's participation. Because if in the development program people are not participating, then that that you can say the implementation will be hollow. Okay, the implementation will be hollow. Let's talk at let's give an example. Actually, this was the situation in my village. Ultimately what happened कि जो आपके पास गवर्नमेंट की जो स्कीम आती है ना, नेशनल हाउसिंग वाली, ठीक है, प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना. सो देर वॉज एन ह्यूज इश्यूज रिगार्डिंग द प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना, दैट द सरपंच, बेसिकली सरपंच हैज़ गिवन होम्स टू like homes to their close ones. Okay, this issues has happened, and this came into the limelight because of the gram sabha discussion. Like in the meeting, people of the villages basically asked the question from the sarpanch, that how you have given the homes to those people who have a strong background, and you are not giving homes to the people who have not the resources, and they don't have the resources to to eat the staple food for the 2 times. Okay, why you are not giving the houses to those people? So when the question was asked, the corruption issue was arised. Okay, the corruption issues was arise. Ultimately what will happen, the government has interrupted and restrained to give the funds, okay, for the housing. So this issues happened, this issue has happened recently. So here we can say that the development programs without the people participation will be a hollow, will be a failed. Okay, so because of this reason, people participation is really very important. So because of this reason, PRIs was formed. Okay, the next thing is to improve rural development. So as I told, if the all people will participate, ultimately what will happen, the rural development took place. Okay, because earlier the planning was centralized planning, everything will be managed from NCT, National Capital Territory. Okay, so earlier the problem was centralized planning and the issue of planning commission. We will talk about the how the planning commission basically made the all kind of planning. Okay, and how the Narendra Modi government introduced Niti Aayog, and what was the difference between the Niti Aayog and planning commission, we will discuss it later. Okay, but you have to remember here, earlier the planning was centralized planning and done by a planning commission. Okay, bureaucratic control was very prominent. You are I think you are aware about the LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization reform. Before that, license quota permit raj was there, है ना, license quota and permit raj was there. What was that? If someone want to establish a kind of a factory, they have to take a permission from bureaucracy. Okay, and because of this excessive bureaucratic control, the development could not processed. Okay, The third thing is local needs ignored, because if the planning is done by centralized body, like यार फॉर एग्जाम्पल एनसीटी में बैठे लोगों को क्या पता कि बीकानेर के एक छोटे से गांव में क्या हो रहा है. आर यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग माई पॉइंट? दे कांट अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंसेस, दे कांट अप्रिशिएट द लोकल प्रॉब्लम्स. Okay, if the local government is there, that local government can only work for themselves in a more efficient manner. For example, if I talk about our country, the country is very vast and it have a very difficult terrain as well. Sometimes the terrain is very difficult, sometimes the terrain is basically like kind of for example, let's just give me a sec, let me clear it. ओके, इफ़ आई टॉक अबाउट और कंट्री ना, आप देखोगे यहाँ पे आपको हिमालयाज़ दिखेंगे, यहाँ पे आपको हिमालयाज़ दिखेंगे, यहाँ पे आपको हिमालयाज़ का कुछ पार्ट दिखेगा, गारो खासी जयंतिया की पहाड़ियाँ यहाँ पर दिखेगी आपको, ठीक है, इसमें मेघालयाज़ के अंदर, ठीक है. यहाँ पे आप डेजर्ट देखोगे, यहाँ पे आप यू विल सी द कोस्टल प्लेन्स. ओके, यहाँ पे आप प्लेट टूरिज्म देखोगे. इफ़ आई टॉक अबाउट इन द सिंपल थिंग ना, द जोग्राफी इज़ वेरी डिफरेंट. Okay, and along with the geography, challenges are also different. For example, in Rajasthan, you will find, in the western Rajasthan, you will find shortage of water. Okay, in Assam, you will find the problem of floods. Okay, so in this scenario, if I will try to control everything from the national capital territory, what will happen? We will not be aware about the complete issues. I am talking about the complete issues. ठीक है, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द कंप्लीट इश्यूज. ठीक है, ऐसा तो सबको आइडिया होता है कि भाई असम के अंदर फ्लड की प्रॉब्लम है, राजस्थान के अंदर आपको एक तरह से क्या बोलते हैं, डेजर्ट वाला इशू है, तो वहाँ पे पानी की कमी है, ये सबको पता है. बट वी आर नॉट अवेयर अबाउट द ग्रेविटी. ओके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, रिसेंटली आई हैव सीन the world most populated city is located in Assam and Meghalaya border, and I'm forgetting the name of that city actually, and I was completely shocked, like how this can be possible. Like in these areas, rainfall is very huge. Okay, in the monsoon, you are aware about the Cherrapunji place in Meghalaya, that the highest rainfall will occur in the Cherrapunji. Okay, how this could be possible ki in this place the pollution, like the city is the most polluted? How this is possible? Okay, so there is an issue of, like, we will talk about that as well in future classes basically. But you have to understand the local issues are something really very different from the centralized issue. At the central level, if I talk about the national security, border security, okay, all those events are basically can be controlled by the national government. But the issues of like street light, the issues of water, the issues of sanitations, these will be effectively managed by the local government. So this was the also very important reason why you can say the centralized why the local government came into the picture. Okay, the next thing is basically for social justice and inclusion. Let me erase it completely. Okay, the next and the important thing is social justice and inclusion. As you are aware about ki in our constitution, we have the constitution article of article 17, which talk about the abolition of untouchability. Abolition of untouchability. And this process, like, we have the huge issue of untouchability, and because I am living in a village and I can understand, like, I have seen these kind of events in front of me as well, that the people of the lower caste are basically treated like untouchables. And if a lower caste people is coming at your home, like, that isn't like I think, क्या बताऊँ यार, मतलब इतना गंदा इशू है ना वहाँ पे कि अगर कोई लोअर कास्ट का इंसान आ रहा है घर पे, तो अगर उसको पानी भी दे दिया तो भी क्या करते हैं कि ग्लास को बाहर छोड़ते हैं कि यार हमारे जो आपके पास जो बर्तन है ना उसमें नहीं रखना. व्हाई? दे आर ऑल्सो एन ह्यूमन बींग्स. एंड द इशू इज दैट कि दिस अनटचेबिलिटी इज मोर प्रोमिनेंट एट लोअर लेवल. For example, if someone is living in NCT, they will not talk about the caste. Okay, if a bhaiya is coming to you to deliver something through the, you can say, the Swiggy and Zomato, like हम क्या कास्ट पूछते हैं क्या? नहीं पूछते. बट इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द विलेजेस, दिस इशू इज वेरी प्रोमिनेंट. Okay, so how we can include, like how, what we can do to improve the situation of social justice, if we give the representation to SCs and STs, then the situation could be improved. With this idea, the institution of PRIs was also important. Okay, because we provide reservation to SCs, SC and ST and women as well. Okay, the next thing is to strengthen federalism. हाउ दिस इज पॉसिबल? लाइक जब हम गवर्नमेंट को डिवाइड कर रहे हैं ना, फंक्शंस दे रहे हैं डिफरेंट डिफरेंट टाइप्स के, तो अल्टीमेटली हो क्या रहा है? अल्टीमेटली हो क्या रहा है कि जब फंक्शंस बटे हुए हैं आपस में, तो कोऑपरेशन भी दिखता है. ठीक है, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दिस थिंग. अभी इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द दिल्ली ना, सो दिल्ली के अंदर आप देखोगे कि सेम फंक्शंस के लिए मल्टीपल बॉडीज है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, दिल्ली म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन विल बी देयर, DPC. ओके, DPC इज देयर एंड DDA इज ऑल्सो देयर. ओके, उसके अलावा आपको जल बोर्ड दिखेगा. जब इतनी सारी बॉडीज आप बना रहे हो ना, तो उस केस में क्या हो रहा है, सबको आपने एक फंक्शन दे दिया है करने के लिए, तो अल्टीमेटली वो कोऑपरेट भी करेंगे. ठीक है, सो the third tier of government basically provide a fertile ground for federalism. ठीक है, next thing is ensure accountability and transparency. So as I told, इसको ऐसे समझो कि like for example, you are an elder in your family and you have assigned a role. You have assigned a role to your like younger brother. ठीक है, younger brother, या फिर मान लो कि जो फादर साहब हैं उन्होंने आपको कुछ काम दिया. ही हैव असाइंड अ रोल टू यू. इन दिस सिनेरियो व्हाट विल यू डू टू बिकम अ काइंड ऑफ like ideal, not ideal, basically to impress your father? What will you do? You will try to do whatever the possible that you can do, है ना? So in that scenario what will happen? Ultimately you will try to being transparent in your father to come into his good books. Okay, so this is the thing. It ensure like local representation are directly accessible and gram panchayat audits and questions social audit possible. ठीक है, so ये था कि why the Panchayati Raj institutions are important. Okay, in the next segment we will talk about how the committees, various committees took into the place and how the constitutionalization of Panchayati Raj has taken place. Okay,